Hello, everyone. I'm Jesse. I'm running LoveCry.
And I'm Anthony. I volunteer with LoveCry. And Jesse and I were having a talk just before this. What are we going to talk about today? Because there's so many beneficial mental health things we can share. And I came up with sexual abuse. A lot of people in my life have had sexual abuse in their life. I've had it in my life. Jesse's had it. And, I wanted to start with like kind of defining what is sexual abuse, right? So I gave Jesse like this example of like, somebody grabs your ass or smacks your ass. So this is an obvious example of sexual abuse. And Jesse was saying, well, what about, thoughts and intentions can be sexually abusive, which I thought that was very interesting because I hardly thought about that, right? So you see someone and you're lusting after them, and maybe you're running a little video in your head of what's what might happen between you and them, and it's not, you don't know this person, it's not welcome. There's no context, so it's really a lot like grabbing someone's ass that you don't know. It's like, what the fuck are you doing grabbing my ass, right? So what are you doing running this video in your head? Or so I thought that was really interesting because, you were saying that this person that you lust after, have these thoughts after, they could get some feelings inside themselves
Mhm.
from these thoughts, and they don't even know. Like you were giving the example,
Yeah.
like let's say there's 10 guys around you, a woman on the bus, there's like multiple guys around her that are thinking things and she doesn't know what's coming from. So she has a weird feeling and she doesn't know where it's coming from. And so like these thoughts are penetrative, like, so if somebody's praying for you and wishing love on you, you can feel that. And even if you're not fully aware of feeling that, and if someone's wishing harm on you, that could have an outcome on you. And if someone's lusting after you, again, that can cause something to happen inside you, and then you're left confused, like, why do I feel weird, like what's going on, right? And then you start to doubt yourself.
Yeah, I think it's almost to me, it's worse than the physical aspect of it because then you're kind of left, like he was saying, unknown of what's happening. So, say, like, as well as like most people, it's like what, one in three girls have been sexually abused by the time they're 18, and one in five boys have been sexually abused by the time they're 18.
But those numbers, I think, are conservative.
Yeah,
Like, I
but
think
I'm
it's
saying, like, it's
because,
a
I mean, if I think
huge.
of people that I know that have shared with me, like, I think it's higher than that.
I agree. It's probably every one of
I would
us.
say, like, way more than half of us.
Because if we add in thoughts, feelings, and touch, it's all of us.
Mhm.
Because our minds haven't been taught to control our thoughts, to work through our thoughts, and to understand them. We've been told that they're bad, hide them, condemn them, and never show them. And those things are what perpetuate abuse. Keep it hidden, keep it moving forward, and then say someone who has been abused, and then now you're thinking of them in this lustful way. They have all these triggers and feelings. They might send them home. They might want to hurt themselves. They might feel like they're whores, or like it can make them really self doubt themselves and hate themselves, and all because you want to think of them in a way that they didn't even ask for. So you kind of like overstep your boundary to think about them, which is kind of normal for the human race, but those aren't necessarily the most efficient ways of dealing with your thoughts and feelings, especially if they're harmful to others.
Yeah, I mean, what I don't, and it's awesome that you said, it's kind of normal.
Yeah.
So, what we don't need is to create more division within ourselves, right? So, I'm an asshole for thinking that, and I'm a jerk or whatever. Like, so it's normal, but it's something that, as we raise awareness within ourselves, right? So we have this person who you gave the example of someone who's had lustful thoughts kind of projected onto them that they're not even aware of, and it like flips them a little bit. They don't know what's going on. So, um, how well do you know yourself? So if you know yourself really well, and all of a sudden you feel weird, you're like, well, that's not me, right? So it's about, these tools can be powerful. So sometimes when you feel weird or whatever, you can now know that, hey, maybe that weird feeling or that weird thought is not actually yours, but it kind of was implanted by someone else.
And then one thing too, if you feel that, then you could do that thing I was mentioning in one of the videos where you protect yourself. So you imagine white light coming from the sky to the earth, surrounding you, deflecting negative energy into the ground. And those things are very helpful when people are thinking like that of you. Um, So that's like, I
So
think that's
shielding
very
yourself,
important. Yeah.
which is a visualization that you do, and I've felt really a big difference with it. And I'm a person that doesn't really feel stuff that easily, you know. So people hold crystals like, oh, feel this crystal, you can feel the energy of it. And I hold it as like, I can't tell if it's a lump of plasticine or a crystal, like. But one day I was talking to Angel, and I was teaching in college, and I said, Angel, I feel so like zonked, like wiped out after teaching a class. Like it's a 3 hour class and it's just exhausting me as if I ran 2 marathons back to back, you know? And Angel said, well, anyone who's having a thought about you that is not positive can hurt you and weigh you down and cost you and zap you. So, you know, shield yourself. So I started doing that. And then when I would teach a 3 hour class again, I was a little bit tired, but nowhere near the way I used to be so tired, right? Because, you know, I'm teaching a class 20, 30 kids. I call them kids because I was like in my 40s. Um, so, and there could be, it just takes one or two people. They're like, oh, I don't like the mark that bastard gave me on the last assignment, or this teacher's too tough for me. Like, or whatever. I don't like his baldness. It bothers me. Or his nose is too big. Like, whatever it was that people might be hating on me for. And so the shielding was nice, and you shield and you're visualizing the shield, and it's your shield, so you can say love can get through, good things can get through, but this shield is just going to deflect anything negative, and it's going to go into the earth,
To be
and there it's
cleansed,
going
yeah.
to be cleansed and transformed the
And
same
given
way.
back to where it belongs.
Yeah.
Because that's what's needed, because everyone needs their energy, but you don't want to send it back hatefully, you don't want to send it back charged with hate. So you send it through the mother earth. It will cleanse it and give it back to where it belongs, so that they can continue their journey and you can continue yours. So
So as above, so below, right? So these things that are visualizing an idea in the idea realm are true in the physical realm. So if you take a crap and you bury it in the earth, it turns into great black soil that grows plants, right? So and so the earth has that transformative power, whether it's on the energetic level or the physical level.
yeah,
Um,
and a lot of, I guess, sorry, I was just gonna mention something about sexual abuse too, because
mhm,
when I was like sexually abused, like my mom thought there was something wrong with me, you know, but she never really knew how to like address it or talk to me about it. So it kind of just went on undealt with for like 20 years, because there was no one that I could talk to. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel open. I felt like I was like there was something wrong with me. Like I did something.
mhm,
And even when I told her, it was like I knew something was wrong with you. Like that was, to me, that really hurt me instead of making me feel better, you know? Like, so you knew there was something wrong
right.
and you just left me to deal with that because you say I wouldn't talk. But those are things that show that, like, parents need to work on their feelings and emotions themselves so that they can communicate,
Mhm,
especially like in a world that has so many issues and violence and problems, because your kids might get sexually abused outside the family, outside, and they're not going to talk to you because they're going to feel bad or shame. And then if you don't have those skills or that knowledge to connect with your child to make them feel safe and know that you're there for them, you'll never hear their problems. And
mhm,
most parents don't want to hear about their problems because it hurts them. But then it's like, okay, that's because of the abuse that's happened to them. They
right.
don't want to see the abuse in their children and passed on. So it's a very like difficult area, but it's something that, like, it takes more heart than anger. You know, like, just being angry doesn't mean you care.
Mhm.
Being angry means that, yeah, it hurt you, but where's the care comes after. And that's what is necessary for your kids, for yourself, so that things can move forward with sexual abuse and stop being so hidden in shame and condemned.
Let me turn off
Sorry.
the oven. No, that's a very important point, and is that in the sense of compassion for your mom, because if she was in denial herself or not in touch with herself, then how can she? You know, you mentioned in another video, like you couldn't love your daughter more than you loved yourself. You can't be more clear with your children than you are with yourself. So it's so important to start from ground zero, know yourself. But I remember a story from Angel where she was very young, like I think 3, 4, something like that. And she told her mom something that happened with her uncle that was sexual. And her mom slapped her out and said, "Shut up, don't say that again." So her mom was obviously in denial about something, and was not going to process her own stuff. So therefore, she definitely was not going to process anything from Angel of a sexual abuse nature. So it's so important to do your work. And, even if Angel's mom, they talk about a cycle of abuse and it gets perpetuated. So let's say Angel's mother didn't do any kind of sexual abuse to her, but she helped the sexual abuse be a terrible thing for Angel because she didn't help her through it the way a mother could have. And like you said, it doesn't take anger. Like, anger is not the solution, but there had to
Yeah,
be,
it's because those things,
something,
yeah, those things are so painful that that's usually the human reaction is just anger because it hurts so much. You just want to get rid of it
Yeah.
instead of sitting with it because you just want to get rid of it. That's getting rid of the person you're working with, the child you're talking to. You're getting rid of them. You're telling them to leave their mind because they're not worth talking to about it. They're not worth fixing. It's too much trouble for you. It hurts you too much for what happened to them, and that is harmful, and it's normal. Like it's a normal reaction for a human being to react that way. Like even in like instances of like death, people are like, oh God, thank God I didn't die, and then that they feel bad for that reaction, and it's like it's just you're just it's okay. Like reactions are reactions, and if we judge ourselves for them, we're going to keep making those reactions.
Mhm.
It's important to look at those things so that we could come from a place of our heart rather than our reaction and our mind and our ego.
So we had that reaction, and it doesn't mean that that's written in stone. Like a reaction, things happen in phases, they happen in steps. And I know with myself, like I was so mad that I was ready to kill. Like that rage was so powerful. And it took many years and many layers of work to reach a place of compassion and healing. And so I didn't, and there's shame, there's anger, there's all kinds of things to work through. And once you work through them, then you are healed and you're able to be more accessible to yourself. You're more self-aware, you're more integrated. You haven't got these schismed off parts of yourself that you won't look at. And then that means that, when people share with me about a sexual abuse in their life, it's healing for them because I'm not judging them, I'm not reacting. And so that's the kind of friend you can be, or that's the kind of parent you can be, or that's the kind of relative you can be. Is to not be the one that slaps and say, shut up, don't talk about that, right? Whether it's a figurative slap or a literal slap.
Yeah, yeah. And most people who have been abused or who are abusing have been abused themselves. Like it's always passed down generations from generations through history, and like as human beings, I find that we keep trying to find this rhetoric talk of we're better than this, or we're not like this, or
Right.
we're above
I'm
these
more
things.
modern. I'm
Yeah,
a
yeah,
yeah. And that's ego talk,
and it's taken
basically.
away from our humanness, and mental health is growing, and like things are getting worse,
Mental
and
health problems are
yeah,
growing, you
yeah,
mean?
yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
yeah, and
um,
it's causing more effects and more trauma on our communities, like in the schools. Like people are all confused and lost, and it's all because the heart is being stifled down because no one wants to deal with the pain. No one wants to deal with the problems, and that's where sexual abuse is being allowed to live. And no one wants to address it because of shame or makes us look bad or makes us feel like we're lower than others. But when you could handle that and you could turn it into a power and make change, then you're I don't even know what to say. Like
you're taking
it's
back a part of yourself that was lost
yeah,
from the
it's like that
abuse.
empowerment,
Uh-huh.
like you're now brought yourself back and you've accepted who you are. This might have happened to you, but that doesn't make you less of a human being. It actually makes you a stronger one because now you have a deeper understanding of pain, what people are going through, how you feel, and how you don't want others to feel that same way. Otherwise, you turn resentful, like these people deserve that, they deserve this, and you just keep going forward with this hard heart, and then it gets passed on, I believe, really to your children, and then mental health issues become so big because there's no help for your children because the emotions that they're going through are the parents
Mhm.
or their caregivers or whoever's there around them, which is just it's a normal human thing, but that needs to be communicated so that these things can start to be alleviated, so that we can move forward in a positive way rather than like a hidden way, like, oh, that's, we're just great, we're just good human beings, we have no problems, look at our technology.
So, so
So
children are often picking up these unhealed, almost invariably, they'll pick up. So, whatever you as a parent or a caregiver or even an uncle or an aunt, whatever's unhealed in you, children are more permeable. And so it goes into them, right? So, let's say going back to Angel's sexual abuse when she was so small, let's say that never happened, but her mom obviously had unhealed issues that were sexual, and these would have been absorbed into Angel just by virtue of being her little daughter. So we have to do our homework for ourselves, first of all, but also for everyone else that we're affecting,
and then if you are like catching yourself, say, like having thoughts, lustful thoughts, things like that, they're normal human being instincts and things like that. But it's the way that I find to catch it is to be, when you notice it, you apologize,
Mm.
you try to find something to take you off of that and say, like, I wish you well, like,
Mhm.
I hope you and your family have something good, like, it's,
So yeah, you're doing this internally. You're apologizing, like,
yeah,
so, and you're not beating yourself up. So I come from a Roman Catholic background, so it's all about flailing yourself. And I'm so bad. I'm so terrible because I had this thought. So no, that's not the answer. The answer is being compassionate. Like, it's normal as a man. Let's say a
or
hetero
a woman,
man.
even a woman too does them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So it's normal as a hetero man to have these thoughts about a woman, or it would be normal for a gay man to have these thoughts about another man. So you're saying, okay, it's normal, it's fine, and I'm going to, but it isn't healthy for that person, nor is it healthy for me because it's an unwarranted thought and projection. So I'm going to apologize. I'm sorry, and you're just doing this internally, right? Because
and now I've even gotten involved with girls just because of that game that I didn't know about. They're playing these games on my head, thinking I'm hot, thinking they like me, these things,
and so it started turning you around,
and it
like.
makes me think that you like them.
Right. So, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it wasn't real because
yeah,
this was projected. It was false. Right.
yeah.
So you felt over time, you felt that you liked one of these girls, but you didn't. It wasn't you. It was just them
Yeah.
projecting off of you. And
It's
actually,
just like the sex game thing, because like I was definitely doing it at that point in time in my life too. So that's what attached it together, and then that's what makes you think you like them, and then you're playing this game, and then that's where like even sexual abuse is happening at that point because you're each playing a game off one another without caring about each other. You just want something, and that to me is sexual abuse in a sense because you're using sexuality to get what you want, even against that person's will. You're not
and
upfront with
and you
it.
could be sexually abusing yourself,
Oh, yeah, of
right?
course.
Because
If you're
like
doing it,
I'm gonna have sex because what I really want is I want to get close to that person. So I'm just gonna have sex with them. But even though that's it's like a tool, right? You're using your body as a tool.
and it's like a
Um,
way to make yourself feel better. You think too. You think this is going to make you feel more like a man, or like, oh, they like me.
right,
Like,
right.
yeah,
So they're a notch on your belt rather
yeah,
than actually, their own person in their own
exactly,
right. But
exactly.
that's an interesting scenario you gave me because a friend of mine told me that decades ago she was maybe I don't know, I think late teens, early 20s, and this guy who was 40s or 50s was lusting after her and lusting after her. She had no interest in this guy. But he was lusting after her for weeks and months, and then all of a sudden she
She,
was like, she thought she was into him. So they had a tiny little fling, and then she's like, no, I'm not into him. So that was totally the sex game because
yeah.
it wasn't her inherent vibe. It was like just like she
and
was like a
and they
mirror.
teach you that in movies. Pursue, keep going, don't give up, and eventually they'll like you back, and it's like, you're what?
That's not even real. It's
Yeah,
false.
you're
Yeah,
like
yeah,
mind controlling people. You're
yeah.
you're trying to make them like you when it's not like on a heart level, and that's you're invasive. You're being invasive into their thoughts, into their head, into their body, their soul, and we think that this is somehow okay because you can't see it. You can't like see. You can't see that I'm doing
Right. It's not
that.
like grabbing someone's ass. It's something that happened etherically.
Yeah.
But it takes me back to because I do think that there's a lot of wisdom within the Bible if you have that adult ability to um, think about it for yourself. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Because it
Reflect
says,
on it. Yeah.
lusting after your neighbor's wife. is just as bad. It is a sin. And so would, like, doing some stuff with your neighbor's wife would be a sin. That would be adultery. But thinking about it is okay. He's getting his charger. And so Jesse is saying, okay, it's not a sin, but it's having a definite harmful effect.
Sorry.
And the plug should be down that way. Yeah, down there, under there somewhere. And so I find it very interesting, that Jesse's coming at it from an experiential point of view. Like, when you know. And and you see. All right, so we got our power back on. So it's going to be a merged together video. And so I was just saying, it was just really interesting that you get this biblical perspective, which is, what Jesse's saying about how the thoughts manifest. So, this topic is sexual abuse, but any kind of abuse, hating on someone, let's say it's completely non-sexual, you're just hating on them, that's harmful to that person. And if you're lusting after someone and imagining stuff and it's not welcome, they don't even know you, they don't, or they know you, but they don't think of you that way, that's harmful too, because you're mixing them up. That energy is mixing them up.
You're going inside them and trying to convince them of something they don't really want. And then you if you constantly think about it, and this person doesn't know themselves, they haven't practiced in mindfulness or know these skills, you're eventually going to get in their head and create their own thoughts, and they're going to hear their voice say it now. And then they're going to think it's their own desire and own want until they realize, through probably an interaction with you, physical, and then they realize that this isn't what they wanted. They kind of feel down about themselves, could be depressed, hate themselves because of it, and all because you wanted something. And it goes both ways for men and women. I've experienced it many times from women, but I've also seen it many times from men. So
That's very interesting. So, um, sexual abuse has many different levels, and as we were saying, it's very common, and it's an opportunity for you to get to know yourself. And I one of my friends, her dad told her when she was, I guess, 30s or 40s, that he was sexually abused as a child in an orphanage, and she was somewhat in touch with her sexual abuse, so she was able to be present enough to her dad to say, she said it just came to her to say it wasn't your fault, because he was probably thinking, as you said before, when you are sexually abused, you feel like it's somehow your fault, or you're weird, or you're contaminated.
because most times the people tell you that too. They blame on you. They make it like your fault. You wanted it, and you don't know any better. And so if you go to talk to someone, you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know how it's going to be responded to. And based on society, it's not really taken very well. Like, girls could get raped, and then they have to go in the stand and be like raped again.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like,
yeah. You really wanted
yeah,
it, and you're
yeah,
just pretending that
like
you're.
how is that okay treatment? I don't get that part, but oh, sorry.
But anything has any rule, and any good thing can be abused. So there are women and men that are abusing these things and accusing people of sexual abuse that it hasn't happened, just to fuck with them. But what Jesse said, I think, is more likely the case, or more often the case, where someone is not believed, or you really wanted it, or you tempted him somehow, and then men will say, like, don't give me blue balls, like, and which is such horseshit. Like, you have every right to be intimate physically and share physical intimacy, and always have your boundaries wherever you choose that you want to have them, and be clear within yourself what the boundaries are.
Yeah.
And it's probably a good idea to talk about that before you
Yeah.
start messing around with someone, because then things go further than you thought, and blah blah blah. So be clear within yourself, and be clear with people around you.
Yeah, because like if you're just chasing after your wants and your desires, then you're not really going after what is healthy for you. You're just chasing after what you think will make you feel like a better person, or be better than that person. But really, your heart is telling you. I bet you, out of like every one of them, like if they really looked at their heart would be kind of hurting, or sad about what their choices are, because they're not listening to themselves. They're listening to what they want, and that creates sadness, upset. Like it's just leads to, I guess, like suicide, depression, anxiety, resentment, and yeah.
No, you're making a very powerful point. And I had a friend of mine who was a bouncer, and women tend to be attracted to alpha males, power, authority, and you have all that when you're a bouncer, right? And my friend said, bro, I was getting so much when I was a bouncer. Like, he was just having all kinds of sex with all kinds of women, And he's a young guy. He's like, this is what I want. This will make me feel good. He said that was the most effed up part of my life. I didn't know if I was coming or going. I was down, 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 down. So it's sort of like, you want a chocolate bar, you want a chocolate, you want donuts, like they taste good, you want them, and you're eating boxes of them. Like, that's not helping you.
Yeah,
It
and it was like what we
might feel
mentioned.
nice to eat the donut, but it's not helping you.
It's like what we mentioned in another video too. Is that when you do have sex or physical activity with someone, you mingle your minds, your energies are all intertwined now, and it makes it that much more difficult to figure out who you are or what you want. So if you sleep with one person, then another person, then the next person, and the next person, your part of your soul is mixed with these four people. And then say you add 10 people, 15 people. I've heard lots, I'm like, I don't know what the hell.
What's your body count?
I'm like, oh my God.
um,
It's
yeah, it's not so like casual sex cannot be casual. This is what Jesse is saying. Like, if I'm understanding you, sex
yeah,
cannot be casual. It's not casual because you're actually mingling your energy,
yeah,
and then you're going to get thoughts or whatever, and you don't
yeah,
know if they're yours or the other person's, and feelings, and so it's already hard enough to work on yourself. So just be careful about it. Sex is actually sacred
yeah.
and powerful. It's sacred. It's powerful. It's something to be respected.
And then there's
And
even like from this, like I think it's Buddhist or whatever, like I'm not sure, the tantra sex.
oh, tantric.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
where that's like your minds and everything are like together, and then you're mingling and having physical sex with like spirituality at the same time, which is supposed to be the like the actual like sex that you're supposed to be engaging with your partner, with someone that you love, with not just any person you have. That's why the sex never really gets to that point, because your souls aren't connected, your souls aren't working together, your souls are working against each other, just trying to get what each other wants. And then in the end, you're either get divorced, you have family problems, your children are having mental health issues, and then you're just fighting amongst yourselves. You did this, you did that, but you both did it to each other. And then if you relax and calm down to understand that this is a human condition and that we need to learn and grow, then you're just going to continue the abuse, continue the cycle, and pass it on to your children to do the same thing and have the same problems in their life because you didn't look at your own. And it just gets passed on. And same with sexual abuse, any kind of abuse. The more it's hidden, the more you don't talk about it, the more harmful effects it has on you, just because you think it doesn't. Pay attention and you will see that it is killing you. It will create any problem. It will create things so that you don't see it. It's
And I mentioned in another video, when you start dating someone, my gay friend was talking to a female friend of his, saying, next guy you date, don't have sex for 2 months. So, um, not that it has to be a hard rule,
yeah.
but you get to know the person and see, like, are your souls driving? Are you driving on other levels? So slow it down, and then it becomes more real. And speaking of, like, getting back to the topic of sexual abuse, so if you just want to use someone basically to masturbate yourself with this person, then you're kind of abusing them, because, like, you're
And yourself.
objectifying
Yeah.
them and yourself.
Yeah.
And we lie to ourselves, and that's something that I got in some of my personal work. 24 years ago, when I did that one kind of cool um, group therapy thing. Like, we lie to ourselves, we do, and then we believe it. So you can lie to yourself and tell you say something's casual, and, oh no, we're both
Yeah.
casual. We both know
Friends
it's
with
just,
benefits.
yeah, and it has a cost, and
Yeah.
so
A heavy cost. And the things, if you're not aware of these costs, then you're just harming each other. So I think that you could possibly have that interaction if you want, but both people have to be on the same page and be mindful of what they're doing. And then I think that will also shift their ideas of what they think they want from sex, because you're now creating into the love aspect and using your heart rather than just your wants. And I think that it will shift something rather than you. I don't think you'd even want to engage in that. And so that mindfulness perspective, that will help you want to see whether or not this is something that is going to be loving, or something that's going to be like traumatic and harmful just because you want something to like alleviate your stress, or to like make you feel better about yourself, or to make you think that this person likes you, or make you think that you have them, or to get them to like you more. So yeah.
yeah, which it's objectifying yourself. So I want him to like me more, so I'm going to sex him, right? Or I want her to like me more, so I'm going to sex her. But yeah,
tease
you're
them.
objectifying yourself because it's not like an integrated action.
Yeah, if they're not staying because of you as a person, then you're selling yourself. You're giving parts of yourself away because you don't think you're good enough because you want this person to think you're good enough. But that person's not supposed to think that of you. You just want that. And then you're invading their thoughts and forcing them to think something that they don't want to in order so you could feel better, but then it doesn't. And now two people are hurt. So,
Which it's kind of egoic. Like it's the ego looking for that. It could be the ego looking for that stroke.
yeah, of course.
And this is another topic for another video, but it's like about how do you love your ego and accept it so that it's not so hungry,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, not beat it down.
Yeah, that's not the answer. Beat up that ego, crucify it. No, that's not the answer. It's about love and acceptance.
Yeah, because
And
that's what leads to more sexual abuse and more abuse because the more it's condemned, the more it's hidden, the more it's suppressed, the more it's not talked about. It now it's just a layer in your head that you don't even notice, you just react upon it. And then it happens, and then you try to hide it, and you don't want to say, "Oh, it's only because of this," or "Oh," but really, like you can't even be honest about it because society will look at you as a horrible person.
or you might look at yourself as a
Oh,
horrible
of
person.
course, yeah, yeah.
So it starts
It
from
goes,
in there.
yeah, it goes
Yeah.
both ways, yeah. So,
So that's I think that we may do that topic about the ego and jealousy. I think that's an awesome one. But I hope that this is. I mean, it's also been clarifying for me to talk about this.
yeah,
So as
it
we
helps
talk
me
about it,
too.
yeah, it clarifies it for us. So hopefully it's done for you as
And
well.
then yeah, if you guys have questions or want us to speak on something, we would love to hear from you, and we'd love to make a talk for that. Like, I just want to share what I've learned and knowledge that I've gained over the years, and if it helps, it helps. If it doesn't, like I don't know.
At least we tried. At
Yeah,
least we tried,
yeah. I'm just
right?
giving myself as
You're
much as I
trying from the
can.
right place.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
from a heart's perspective. Maybe I have ideas that you don't like, and we could like kind of like go from there too, and say something that doesn't sound right to you, and maybe I could elaborate more to give you more of an idea of where I'm coming from on that perspective.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Cool.
all right. Yeah, thanks for listening. See you guys next week.
Okay.